A professor stood before his class with a large jar of pebbles, a box of sand, and a pitcher of water. He asked the students to fill the jar with the pebbles. The students quickly did so. "Is the jar full?" the professor asked. The students shook their heads. The professor then poured the box of sand into the jar. The sand settled into the spaces between the pebbles. "Is the jar full now?" the professor asked. The students shook their heads again. The professor then poured the pitcher of water into the jar. The water filled up the remaining space. "Now," the professor said, "I want you to recognize that this jar represents your life. The pebbles represent the important things: your family, your partner, your health, your children, things that if everything else was lost and only they remained, your life would still be full. The sand represents the other things that matter, like your job, your house, your car. The water represents the small stuff, the things that don't really matter." The professor continued, "If you put the sand into the jar first, there is no room for the pebbles or the rocks. The same goes for your life. If you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, you will never have room for the things that are truly important." The students were silent for a moment, contemplating the professor's words. Then, one of the students raised her hand. "But professor," she said, "what about the water? Isn't that important too?" The professor smiled. "Of course the water is important," he said. "But if you fill your jar with sand, there is no room for the water. The important things need to be put in first, then you can fill in the spaces with the other things." The students nodded in understanding. They had learned a valuable lesson about the importance of putting the important things first.